any size and always be healthy. It just means as long as you're healthy, you can be any size.
You can pander to whoever you want to build your audience and change the wording however you want to, but morbid obesity is unhealthy 100% of the time due to the chronic inflammatory nature it puts the body in. Every time.
I'm not a fan of Alan Roberts, because I find him inconsistent, but here he is 100% on the money. Fitness influencers who cater to fat activists are doing zero good. Obesity is an independent risk factor for a plethora of disease. Even if an individual obese person isn't plagued with health conditions right now or never is, that doesn't change this fact. If you think it's possible to lead a normal, healthy life at 600 pounds, you're delusional.
This is actually a really funny comment because this is objectively not true. Like, for example, early in the pandemic, people found out that a ventilator could be denied to you and given to someone else if you have a pre-existing condition, and obesity, having a high BMI, even though, side note, BMI was never designed to tell you how healthy or unhealthy someone is. So just having a high BMI, being medically obese, could put you lower on the waiting list for a ventilator in a pinch at a hospital and obviously cause you to die from COVID. Not to mention the fact that when fat people go to the doctor with like respiratory issues or anything like that, the doctor's first response is almost always lose weight. Doesn't matter about COVID or anything. Like, fat people have tons and tons of these stories that obviously you're not listening to.
Everything about this has many logical flaws. Firstly, obese people are not only more likely to die from the virus, but they were more likely to be hospitalized in the first place. How do you experience so-called medical fatphobia before you even lay eyes on the doctor? It's illogical. Secondly, when hospitalized they were twice as likely to even need a ventilator, so the explanation fails even harder. Thirdly, an article by Lisa Jaff and Dr. Carol Nadolsky completely debunks this notion that obese people don't receive ventilators. It is a rumor that appeared out of thin air. With all these facts present, the one factor left to explain their worse outcomes is obesity. I understand as an obese person this is a scary reality to face, but sometimes reality is scary. Fortunately for you, you have time to change your reality.
Pub, a goofy tells you to go into a calorie deficit. Have you tried working on your own deficit?
I'm going to say this exactly one time. Celebrating weight loss is almost always going to be fatphobic. Because you are celebrating not being fat. How is that going to be anything other than fatphobic? And the exceptions come from situations like you maybe have to lose weight for a surgery. That's something that's worth celebrating because now you can get surgery. Shit like that. But just being like, oh, I'm smaller now. I don't care about celebrating that with you. Not at all. Especially when you are already skinny beforehand and you're just now even smaller, skinny. That can only be fatphobia. In that one situation. Yes, I'm talking about a specific situation. No, I don't care if that person be getting attacked, but it is fatphobia and you can fuck off.
If I'm an amputee and I celebrate getting a successful arm transplant, is that ableist? No, because it doesn't involve hating disabled people. The same goes for fatphobia.
You know when someone's like at the point and they're still missing it? So many of the comments that are like this. Y'all are like almost there. What we're talking about is correlation versus causation. Yes, there is a correlation between weight and certain conditions, but everybody can be impacted and affected by those conditions. That's why weight is not the cause of them. Weight is correlated with them. And your second point about the misconception of what obese actually is, yeah. Actually, yes. There are a number of people on the BMI scale who are classified as obese that you would not think of as obese per, I'm assuming, what you think is obese. Famously obese. Also obese. Overweight. And yes, I know they have lower body fat percentages. But they're perfect examples of how flawed not just the BMI scale is, but also weight science. There are way better measures of health than someone's weight. Y'all just don't like fat people.
Notice how she mentions that the individuals she uses to make point have a low body fat percentage, and then glosses over the point like a child. The cause of the diseases associated with obesity is not necessarily the weight. This is true, it's the excess adipose tissue. Pointing to athletes to make your point is nothing more than appealing to outliers. Ranasingh and other 2013 studied over 1,000 adults and showed that, while BMI is not perfect in predicting fat mass, it correlates pretty well with it at a population level. Most people with higher BMIs do not have higher BMIs due to an above average amount of muscle, because most people aren't athletes. This is why BMI is a useful tool. It's convenient and more often than not it indicates your fat levels.
To the people who say, I'm not fat phobic, I just wouldn't want to be fat. If you're not fat phobic, then why would you care if you're fat or not? You know?
Because it's not healthy. Next question.
Today, my supposedly head-informed doctor tried to prescribe me a medication for weight loss.
Suck my dick, you stupid bitch.
If your doctor is asking you to lose weight and you don't, you are a shitty patient. Period.
I got time today. Have you ever considered that some people might just be fat because they're fat? Genetics, play a huge role. People can naturally be thin. Therefore, people can naturally be fat too. Also, this doesn't apply to me, but have you heard of poverty and needing to eat cheap foods to stay alive that sometimes make you gain weight because that's all you can afford? Have you ever considered medications? I take 5 medications, all of which have made me gain weight. I also prioritize my health, believe it or not. Fat people can care about their health. Also, I'm not acting oppressed, I am oppressed. Fat people are oppressed. It's not because you can't control your own impulses. Regardless of whether it's from someone's lack of impulse control, they can still be oppressed. But baby, you are downright stupid if you don't think that some people can just be naturally fat. There's such thing as a set point weight, and when people grow up and they eat normally and move normally for them, they find a range that's healthy for their body. So next time you want to come on my page and try and spew misinformation, do a little bit of research first. Thank you.
Weight has a genetic component. This is true. You know what else has a genetic component? Addiction. Luckily, unless a trait is 100% determined by genetics like eye color, you are not a slave to it. This idea of a set point fails to explain why we have experienced an explosion in the overweight and obese population in the past 50 years. There's no way in hell human DNA has changed that fast. Yanida and others 2016 best puts this idea to shame. The study consisted of over 13,000 Japanese Americans and Japanese natives in Hiroshima. Coincidentally, the highest rates of obesity were found in the children of Japanese immigrants born and raised in America for their entire lives. So what changed about their DNA? The correct answer is nothing.